This looks like a deck of cards. It feels like a deck of cards, and it even handles like a deck of cards. But this little gadget has a very shocking secret. For this project, we're turning a cheap disposable camera into an electric shocker that's been disguised as an innocent-looking deck of cards. Your audience will have no idea there's over 300 volts of electricity pumping through it. The secret is in this modified shocker circuit hiding just under the surface. It's powered by a single AAA battery and has a dial for cranking up the voltage. Taking a couple of cards from the stack reveals the hidden electrodes, and you can see they're charged with nearly 330 volts DC. If both of the pads are touched, it shoots out a wicked jolt of electricity. You might get a better idea of how this feels if we use the device to charge a capacitor and touch some metal. Stuart gave me a fresh deck of cards and some spares from his other kissing pranks. I also picked up this disposable camera from the photo center of a local drugstore. This one was used and in their recycling bin along with hundreds of others, so I got it for free. If you want to find the exact same style, just look for this model number printed on the casing. Alright, let's get inside this thing by breaking the front panel off, and this should expose the circuit board. Now there's a good chance you'll get shocked if you try this barehanded, but releasing the board is as simple as pushing the plastic catch to the side and pulling upward. This is the circuit that drives the camera flash. The various components are powered with a AA battery and work together to charge this 330 volt capacitor, which you can see stores a pretty nasty shock. Now we could use this by itself, but it's way too big to hide in a deck of cards. To do that, we'll have to reverse engineer the schematics and shrink it down a lot. We can use something like a desoldering iron to remove the 5 components we'll need, and I've switched out the AA battery with a smaller AAA battery to work with this schematic. Now this is the tricky part. We don't have room for bulky wires, so we'll need to solder everything directly to the pins on the transformer, in a way that keeps the components in line while maintaining a low profile. For convenience in changing out the batteries, let's incorporate a AAA battery holder. I'm also adding a 1 mega ohm tuning potentiometer, so we'll be able to adjust the intensity of the electric shock. This pot has 3 legs, but we only need 2, so let's trim the one on the right. Okay, it's time to add some wire, and I scavenged this thin cable from some scrap electronics. We'll just need to strip the ends and solder them in place. This is a good time to connect the potentiometer just behind the diode, so the dial is flush with the top. Now let's solder the shocker circuit to the battery holder, so we end up with one wire that attaches to battery positive, and an additional wire that attaches to battery negative and then continues on out. The circuitry here is streamlined and looking pretty good, but it's very fragile. So I've wrapped a bit of paper around the edges to make a form for adding copious amounts of hot glue. I'm hoping this will seep down into the gaps and give the shocker circuit more durability. That will need to cool for about 5 minutes, then we can peel off the paper and add a little more glue to any parts that got missed. To finish it up, I gave it a new paper jacket and a bit of black ink. Well, that completes the shocker circuit, so now it's time to rig the deck. I'm thinking the best place to conceal the shocker will be near the back, and it looks like it could be a tight fit, but it should work. These components are shorter than the deck and stand about 40 cards high. That means there are 12 cards here that won't need any modification, but these other ones are going to need to be cut. Since there are so many cards to cut, I made this plastic template to use as a cutting guide. Holding the card firmly in place, we can use something like a razor or this hobby knife to make the cuts. I've also done this with scissors, but it's harder and the result isn't as clean. Alright, we've got 40 cards modified, and a quick alignment on the edges shows the containment area is fairly uniform. Now we'll need to grab a new card and mark where the circuit is going to sit. I've cut a 1/4-inch hole because we need some stealthy electrodes that will be smooth and lie flat so they can't be detected. I'll be using this piece of conductive foil tape that you can get at the hardware store. You can see here how the tape gets folded inside the card, and once in position, it can be trimmed and smoothed out with a firm piece of plastic like a credit card or a hotel room key. The other electrode gets added on the opposite side, making sure there's a good gap between the two, and the finished base should look like this. The last 3 steps are to trim up the wires so they're held in firm contact with the conductive metal tape, add a bit of hot glue to the underside of the unit, and reinforce the connections to ensure they won't pull apart. Now the circuit is ready for operation, and when a battery is inserted, this will deliver a continuous electric shock to anyone that makes contact with the metal tape. The modified cards turned out to be a perfect fit, and since nothing is glued in place, they can move freely to give the illusion that it's just a normal deck. Now if you're concerned about accidentally shocking yourself, you can reduce the risk by placing a card or two over the shocker pads. The remaining cards stack on top, and our modification is complete. What's really cool about this is it even fits back in the original packaging. Well, there you have it. Now you know how to convert a simple deck of cards into a stealthy secret shocker. If you like this project, perhaps you'll like some of my others. Check them out at thekingofrandom.com.